In 1993, a tiny robot crawled into a passage inside the Great Pyramid that was barely wide enough for a house cat. No person could follow it. There was no room to turn around, no second route out, and absolutely no clue what waited at the end. The robot climbed through darkness for more than 60 meters until its camera suddenly stopped in front of something no one expected to see: a smooth limestone slab. And attached to it were two pieces of copper that looked suspiciously like handles. Now, to be clear, archaeologists do not officially call this a door. They call it a blocking stone. But when something is shaped like a door, has metal fittings like a door, and appears to have empty space behind it, people are going to ask the obvious question: what is on the other side? Years later, another robot drilled a tiny hole through the slab. Its camera slipped inside and revealed a small, empty space, only to find another stone barrier waiting behind the first one. So now we have a sealed shaft, a stone with copper fittings, a hidden space, and a second barrier buried deep inside a structure built around 4,500 years ago. And somehow, that is only the beginning. The shaft connects to the room traditionally called the Queen's Chamber, although no queen was ever found there. In fact, no confirmed body of any kind has been found inside the Great Pyramid. German engineer Rudolf Gantenbrink wanted to continue investigating the shaft, but disagreements over access, publicity, and control brought his project to an end. That delay created exactly the kind of rumor you would expect. Were officials protecting the pyramid or protecting a secret? There is no proof that anyone discovered forbidden technology, treasure, or a hidden record of human history. But when a sealed passage is found and the public is told to wait years for another look, suspicion grows very quickly. And that brings us to the biggest argument surrounding the Great Pyramid. Do we actually know who built it? The standard answer is Pharaoh Khufu, who ruled Egypt during the 4th dynasty. Critics often say his connection to the pyramid depends almost entirely on red writing discovered above the king's chamber. Since those markings look like construction graffiti rather than royal decoration, some people believe they could have been added later. It is a good mystery. It is just not the whole story. Then, thousands of years after the pyramid was built, archaeologists found something even harder to dismiss near the Red Sea: an ancient work diary. The Diary of Merer records an official and his crew transporting fine white limestone from Tura to a place called Akhet Khufu, Khufu's horizon, the ancient name of the Great Pyramid complex. It describes moving stone by boat during the period when the monument was being built. Near Giza, archaeologists have also uncovered the remains of a large organized settlement with bakeries, workshops, storage buildings, food preparation areas, and housing for the workforce. So Khufu's connection is much stronger than one suspicious-looking name painted in red. But that creates another problem. If the Great Pyramid was built as Khufu's tomb, where is Khufu? The king's chamber contains a granite box, usually described as a sarcophagus. It is empty. There is no mummy, no treasure, no gold, and no carved account of the pharaoh's life. The walls are almost completely blank. If you walk into later Egyptian tombs, the walls seem alive. Gods, stars, prayers, offerings, journeys through the underworld. Almost every surface can carry meaning. Inside the Great Pyramid, you mostly get polished stone and silence. That silence is often presented as proof that the monument was never a tomb. But during Khufu's time, royal pyramids did not yet contain the elaborate pyramid texts that appeared generations later. And if grave robbers reached the chamber in antiquity, the missing body and valuables would not be surprising. Still, an empty stone box inside the largest pyramid ever built is not exactly the satisfying answer people are looking for, especially when you consider what it took to put that box there. The Great Pyramid originally stood about 481 feet tall and contained roughly 2.3 million blocks. Many were cut from limestone near the Giza Plateau, but the fine white casing came from Tura, while granite used in the interior traveled more than 500 miles from Aswan. Some granite beams above the king's chamber weigh dozens of tons. Moving one object that heavy is difficult today. Now picture doing it without engines, steel cranes, modern trucks, or a nice project management app, reminding everyone that the 70-ton ceiling stone is due by Friday. This is where explanations usually become frustratingly simple. You may have heard that workers drag stones over wet sand. That is partly true. Damp sand reduces friction and could make heavy sledges easier to pull. But wet sand does not lift a granite beam hundreds of feet into the air. The complete process probably involved boats, canals, sledges, ropes, inclined ramps, levers, and thousands of people performing different jobs at the same time. Some workers quarried stone, others shaped it, moved it, prepared roads, built ramps, supplied food, repaired tools, or positioned the blocks. That makes the project possible. It does not make it easy. The exact ramp system remains disputed, because any ramp capable of reaching the upper levels would itself have been an enormous structure. A straight ramp would require a huge amount of material. A spiral ramp creates problems at the corners. An internal ramp is clever, but difficult to prove. So when someone says the Egyptians used ramps, they may be correct. The next question is, which ramps? The tools create another puzzle. Copper is soft compared with granite, which makes the idea of cutting massive stone using copper saws sound ridiculous. But the copper did not necessarily perform all the cutting by itself. It could carry abrasive sand that slowly ground through harder rock, while dolerite, pounding stones, drills, polishing, and endless labor completed the job. And yes, some experiments move painfully slowly, but ancient Egypt was not one person attacking one block on a weekend. Thousands of specialists could work in parallel for years. Slow tools become far more powerful when an entire kingdom is organized around one construction project. Then there is the famous 20-year timeline. If you divide 2.3 million blocks by 20 years, the number sounds absurd. It suggests that blocks had to be completed and placed every few minutes, all day and night. But that calculation treats the pyramid like one assembly line with one team. In reality, many blocks could be quarried, transported, shaped, and positioned at the same time. Most were also much lighter than the giant granite pieces mystery videos love to show. A construction period measured in decades is possible. The strange part is that no surviving blueprint explains exactly how it was done. And the builders were not only moving stone, they were controlling geometry across a base covering more than 13 acres. The pyramid is aligned astonishingly close to geographic north, not magnetic north, true geographic north. Researchers have suggested methods involving stars, shadows, plumb lines, and repeated measurements, but we do not know exactly which technique the builders used. Then there is the pyramid's shape. From the ground, it appears to have 4 sides, but each face has a slight inward depression near the center. Under certain lighting, the Great Pyramid can appear to have 8 faces instead of 4. Was that intentional? Was it structural? Did the effect become more visible after the smooth casing stones were removed? No one has produced a final answer. This is also where the numbers start getting dangerous. People claim the pyramid contains pi, the golden ratio, the dimensions of Earth, the number 432, the center of the world's landmass, and even the speed of light. Some of the mathematical relationships are real approximations, but when you measure enough slopes, heights, perimeters, units, and angles, coincidences become much easier to create. The speed of light claim is the best example. One latitude crossing the pyramid resembles the digits of the speed of light in meters per second. That sounds impossible until you remember that it uses modern decimal coordinates, modern meters, modern seconds, and one carefully selected line passing through a very large monument. It is a fantastic coincidence. It is not a message written in GPS. The connection to the stars is more difficult to dismiss because the sky genuinely mattered to Egyptian religion. Orion was associated with Osiris, while other stars represented the eternal world where the dead king hoped to join the gods. The 3 Giza pyramids have been compared with the 3 stars of Orion's belt. The resemblance is interesting, but it is not exact, and the match depends on how the map is rotated and scaled. So the Giza Plateau may contain celestial symbolism. That does not automatically make it a giant star map. And just when it seems like every pyramid mystery can be explained by engineering, symbolism, or coincidence, modern technology finds something new inside it. In 2017, scientists used particles called muons to scan the Great Pyramid. Muons pass through stone, but detectors can measure differences in how much material they cross. 3 separate detection systems identified a large empty region above the Grand Gallery. It is at least 30 meters long. Researchers call it the Scan Pyramid's Big Void. No one knows exactly what it is. It could be one large chamber, several smaller spaces, a construction passage, or a structural feature designed to reduce pressure. Then another corridor was detected behind the chevron-shaped stones above the pyramid's original north entrance. The space is approximately 9 meters long and was investigated using non-destructive technology. Its purpose is also unknown. So after centuries of explorers breaking into chambers, crawling through passages, drilling through stone, and scanning the monument with particle physics, the Great Pyramid still contains spaces we cannot explain. Is that evidence of a cover-up? Not necessarily. Access to the pyramid is tightly controlled because one careless excavation could permanently damage a monument that has survived for 45 centuries. Research takes time, government agencies control permits, and teams sometimes argue over who gets to announce a discovery. None of that proves that anyone is hiding aliens, machines, lost technology, or a forgotten civilization. But accepting that Egyptians built the pyramid does not mean the monument has been completely solved. We know it belongs to Khufu's era. We know workers transported stone to his complex. We know the project required extraordinary organization, mathematics, surveying, and labor. What we do not know is why the Queen's chamber shafts were sealed, what the copper fittings meant, what lies beyond the second barrier, why the big void exists, or why a hidden corridor was constructed behind the north face. Perhaps the oldest cover-up is not a secret being protected by archaeologists. Perhaps it is the mountain of modern myths covering an achievement so extraordinary that many people find it easier to believe in lost technology than in the ability of the ancient builders themselves. But somewhere behind those sealed stones and invisible spaces, the Great Pyramid may still be holding back one final piece of its story. And if researchers could open only one place next, the sealed shaft, the big void, or the hidden north corridor, which one would you choose? And if researchers could open only one place next, the sealed shaft, the big void, or the hidden north corridor, which one would you choose?